The elites are making their vision of the country, if Kamala gets elected, very clear. If you don't agree with the mainstream media, you're going to be censored, demonetized, and kicked off the internet. This started as a not-so-subtle warning from the left-wing news outlet Axios, and within a few hours of the Axios report being published, big political commentators on the right, from Ben Shapiro to Tucker Carlson to Benny Johnson, began getting text messages from the New York Times that they may be getting deplatformed. Let me start this out by reading to you this Axios report, which appeared before these threats from the New York Times. It is really dystopian to read on its own, but when you read it in the context of the media might have been conspiring together by putting these reports out in the same day, it's even more dystopian. This is titled Big Media Era Over. In my head, I'm like, whew, thank God. But this is how Axios sees it. The mainstream media's dominance is narrative and reality shaping in presidential elections shattered in 2024. The future of news and information is upon us. Welcome to the shards of glass election, the news era. The subhead then says why it matters. How and where Americans get informed has broken into scores of pieces, from young men on Joe Rogan's podcast to suburban women following Instagram influencers. The media is taking issue with the fact that men and women, younger people and older people, prefer to consume media and information in different ways, as opposed to just taking what they say and being spoon-fed by a media who has lost all trust. Both campaigns have targeted small, often little appreciated shards to reach hyper-specific pockets of potential voters. The campaigns are doing this with unorthodox, sometimes lengthy media appearances and precision ad targeting. For example, Trump reached way more potential male voters with this 3-hour Rogan conversation than he would have if he had done dozens of appearances on Fox, CNN, and MSNBC combined, as most of those networks have median ages ranging from 67 to 70 years old. You guys, there's a reason why I start this show off every time by saying, welcome to a show that talks about stories that CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News don't talk about. The way that cable is segmented is not a good way to have a really good in-depth conversation with people. It is not to say that what they do is not important to part of the reach and part of the conversation that we have when it comes to media. They are still crucial elements, but they are no longer the whole element. And the fact that that is happening is somehow threatening, obviously to them, but to the people who are obsessed and sycophantic with them. The people who are writing at Axios are also the same people that love to go on CNN and MSNBC. Like, this is where they get to do their nerd out sessions for 5 minutes a week. And it's not actually helpful to having long form conversations and having thoughtful, insightful conversations. Those are done in longer interviews and in longer periods when you're not stuck to a time limit, right? So that's why you see people like Joe Rogan being so wildly successful, and then you give credit where credit is due. It's why you see success in Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast. It's a show about sex and relationships, and it's long form, and people can dive into it. And that's what people want. They want an hour where it's not about screaming at each other or trying to get in a little snippet or a soundbite. It's about having a conversation, right? So this Axios article goes on to say, this new fragmented reality is the future, not just of elections, but also how America learns about business, products, technology, culture, and current events. Why is that such a bad thing is what I keep wondering, though. Why is this so bad? It's actually great. It means that people are consuming a ton of different sources and they are able to be curious and come to the conclusions for themselves. Unless, of course, if you come to your own conclusion, that might make you a conservative. Ooh, that would be scary for the media, huh? And so Axios goes on to say it's how reality will be shaped and, quote, truths hardened. Okay, so not their version, their dystopian, weird version of reality where they all sit in Washington, D.C. and New York City together and then tell us in the middle of the country how to feel. It's where partisans will sharpen and spread their ideas or lies, as we've seen exemplified by both campaigns. This weird feeling that Axios is pointing the finger down at the Republican commentators, they say evil things. Oh, F off. Go watch the Young Turks for 25 minutes and you'll be fed a ton of lies too. Like, find your person who's actually going to give you real information as they see it and be honest with you. And I put theories on this channel all the time where I'm like, do I 100% believe it? No, but it's a theory. I'll let you decide for yourself because you're smart. You're a smart person if you're watching this video. I don't need to tell you and spoon feed you and go, okay, this is what happened. I think it happened this way. You need to believe me. That's what mainstream news outlets do. And it's offensive at a certain point. So of course people are going to say this is sharpening partisans and spreading ideas and dividing people. Yeah, because people want to trust people that are like them. That's not new. That's like sociology for all of history. Gosh, these people are so dumb. Continues and says it's where trends and misinformation will be born and trafficked. Of course, that is a very subjective term. Misinformation. Your whole outlet is misinformation, you idiots. He goes on to say, it's where products and brands will be judged and sold. It's where a new generation of information stars are spawned. The big picture, when we speak about the country, we often tell audiences that when you're sitting at a table of people of different ages and politics, several of them probably get their information on platforms you've never visited, from popular influencers you've never heard of, on topics that might seem exotic or totally new. Big traditional media still has its moments. Of course, presidential debates wouldn't have those without a ton of money from the cable news outlets, right? Town halls, sit-down interviews. Those are all things. Those aren't going away. Those are always going to go to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all those places, right? But even then, most of the narrative shaping is done in quick Twitch video bites or reinterpretation on podcast social platforms or right here on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. And of course, that is a threat because that means that viewers might, oh, well, that Chrissy Clark girl, she just is going to pull the best parts of the sit-down interview between Kamala and Alex Cooper and tell me what I need to know so I don't have to listen to Alex Cooper and Kamala whine at each other about irrelevant fake facts for an hour. Yes, of course. Of course people are going to do that. They are trying to be strategic and smart. The world is growing, and just because Axios and people in mainstream media aren't growing doesn't mean that people should be punished for their inability to grow. It goes on to say, top executives and officials tell us that reaching people ages 35 and under with any message or even major event is almost impossible. Or if they've seen an 8-second clip with no context, so they have a very different understanding of what happened than someone who saw a mainstream report. Thank God, truly. These are TV cord cutters living in fractured communities on Instagram, TikTok, and streaming audio. Oh my gosh, congrats, you have to adapt with the world. I don't feel bad for these people at all. Freaking adapt with the world. Times are changing, okay? Sorry you can't be fussy and stuffy at your stupid news desks in New York and DC and be an elitist anymore. You've got to be part of the community. You have to be with the people, okay? Why? I feel so bad for you. I don't feel bad for you at all. Freaking elitist snobs of the highest order. Truly. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about the media's new world order. And it goes on basically to say, if you vote for Trump, you're voting for our death. Okay, you've never gotten me to the polls any faster. This goes on to say former President Trump's long-form interviews put a premium on young conservative, libertarian, or agnostic men. Trump appeared on a live stream with streamer Adine Ross, hosted a niche live streaming video platform called Kick that had about 580,000 viewers. Trump also sat down with Theo Vaughn, Andrew Schultz, Barstool, all of those. And those were hilarious conversations that made him seem, of course, very relatable and nice, which is why the media don't want you to use these kind of platforms. Because when you actually sit down and have a conversation with Theo Vaughn and Donald Trump, it's hilarious. It's humanizing their person out there that they are claiming is Hitler 2.0. Of course they don't want that. Of course they don't. Because then, of course, that would mean that they can't spoon feed you a narrative full of lies. Of course they don't want that. What's next? TV is dying, slowly but surely. The audience for TV is old and shrinking. That's even changing where the candidates spend their TV budgets. Then it says, threat level. Threat. When attention is scattered across scores of shards, it's easier to propagate conspiracy theories and manipulate news. Oh my gosh, that's because you don't do it. Because theories are put out there, they are not always conspiracy theories. A lot of them tend to be right, actually. These theories get floated out there and that is contingent on people who are smart enough and that consume this to make decisions for themselves instead of some asshole with his head up CNN's but telling us how we're supposed to think, okay? It's insulting that you think that people can't handle the truth, okay? And speaking of manipulating news, Russia, Hunter, yeah, fuck off with that, for real. It's so interesting. Oh gosh, here it goes. It's harder to cast Russian information campaigns when they're unleashed. Right, because you did such a great job. Axios, CNN, MSN. Good job, guys. Right. It's so funny. So then, this is where it's just like, I almost want to tear up because it's such totalitarianism right in front of our face. It's insulting. The winner of this election might speed or slightly slow this lightning fast transition. If Harris wins, she and her staff are much closer and responsive to traditional media. So congratulations. No one that is going to be popular or using the internet, or like Kamala's not going to be able to reach any of the young voters. They're just going to have to sycophantically listen to MSNBC and CNN if they want to get their news about Kamala Harris. And they're going to tell us exactly how to feel about that, right? And then if Trump wins, well, you know, the power of Elon Musk and X and going on podcasts and talking to people who you wouldn't otherwise talk with. The horror. Oh my gosh. Like, do I need to call 911 and send in a ambulance for you guys? The freaking whiny losers. You're not just voting for a politician, remember. You're voting for how much or how little freedom of information you will have after January 20th, 2025. And this seems to be a semi-coordinated effort, by the way, because hours after that email that I just read to you went out from Axios, major conservative commentators then received texts from the New York Times reporters essentially saying that the legacy media is trying to bully YouTube into silencing channels like Ben Shapiro's, Tucker Carlson's, and even small channels like this one. Ben Shapiro did a whole explainer video on this, as well as putting together a whole tweet thread for everybody to see. He said, if you were wondering what the legacy media would plan for its October surprise, well, wonder no longer, it's here. Today, I received this text, which said, "Good day, Mr. Shapiro. I hope you're well. I'm Nico Grant, a reporter with The Times. I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment for an upcoming article that takes a look at how political commentators have discussed the upcoming election on YouTube. We rely on an analysis conducted by the hacks over at Media Matters for America. Could you kindly provide us with a comment or decline to comment by the end of the day on October 29th? Thanks for your time. Here are the points we plan to include. Media Matters identifies 286 YouTube videos between May and August that contained election misinformation, aka thoughts outside of the Democratic preference, including narratives that have been not debunked. They've been, how do I put this? The media has deemed them outside of their preferred narrative, therefore we're going to call them debunked, and are not supported with credible evidence, aka there are theories being floated out there that people are working towards better understanding, and they're thoughtful and insightful, and people are just trying to better understand as we live in a world where our government likes to hide evidence from us. Ooh, wow, if only you could, like, it's not worth my breath anymore to call these people out. The other point was researchers identified videos posted by you in those 4 months that contain election and misinformation. Oh my gosh, Ben Shapiro, relative to all the other people, all the other conservatives, he is like almost he's not a neocon, but you know what I mean? Like, he's almost a neocon about this stuff. He is so milquetoast on some of this stuff. I wouldn't call him a purveyor of the 2020 election information that was going down. He believes that Biden won. He thinks it was rigged and not that it was stolen. Like, there's a difference. And so I think it's so funny they're going after Ben Shapiro, of all people. It continues to say, we featured a clip of you saying your party rigged many of the voting rules in advance of the election in order to ensure an extraordinary number of mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting. True. Like, that's factually true. You don't have to like what it shows about the Democratic Party, but it's true. So odd. He then goes on to say, are you part of the YouTube Partner Program, which is how you monetize on YouTube? If so, how frequently does YouTube demonetize your videos? And has YouTube sent you messages, emails, or notices in the last year about your content containing misinformation? So long story short, what the left and the New York Times are doing, and kind of the whole media apparatus is doing right now, is very obvious. They are using research from a bunch of left-wing idiots over at Media Matters and trying to pressure YouTube to demonetize and penalize anybody with a voice on the internet that isn't pushing the election narrative that they want to. And look, they did the same thing to Tucker Carlson, except Tucker Carlson's response was honestly so amazing. He responded and said, "So the New York Times is working with a left-wing hate group to silence critics of the Democratic Party. Please ask yourself why you're participating in this. Is this why you go into journalism? It's shameful. I hope you're filled with a guilt and self-loathing for sending me a text like this. Please quote me." He said, the New York Times journalist responded, "Thank you for your prompt response. Would you like to address any of the points or questions above?" He said, "Would I like to participate in your attempt to censor me? No thanks, but I do hope you'll quote that I wrote about what I wrote above and note that I told you to fuck off, which I'm doing now. Thank you." Well, there you have it, folks. The media and its Democratic allies are not being shy about what they want the future to look like. They want a controlled narrative, top down, where the White House tells the press what to say and the press tells us what the truth is and how we're supposed to feel about that truth. That sounds like China to me. That sounds like Russia to me. That sounds like propaganda to me. It's not American, that's for sure. And I just want you to know that the media wants to shut down shows like this. If you are one of those people out there saying, "I don't know if I want to vote because my vote doesn't matter," your vote matters. Because without your vote, we could see a shutdown and a demonetization of shows like this. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not trying to put myself in the same category as Benton or Tucker. Not at all. I'm newer to this. But I know that this channel is growing and has impact. And people are waking up. And that pisses off the media, both right and left. It pisses them off. So be vigilant, because silencing people is the future the media wants. If you're a real one and made it to the end of the show, will you drop the megaphone emoji to indicate that we'll be speaking our thoughts loud and proud, no matter the censorship? Thanks, friends. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment about how beautiful, stunning, and funny I am. And if you want more content based in logic, be sure to click over here for more videos and clips of my show. If you have the means to financially support the show, consider purchasing from my merch line, Based Apparel, linked right below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.